Well, I just seemed like we just visited. I was wondering if anybody's going to be here.
Ain't getting away that easy.
Oh, I understand. Do I need this? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Might actually find it.
Like,
So, I guess,
It's 8:59. Feel free to wait until 9 o'clock.
no.
Hold it in suspense.
Let's go. Let's do this, you know? You all have any questions for me? Yeah.
I got two. I just found out you were a JAG lawyer. Did
Yeah.
you do any overseas time?
Yeah, I was in Germany for 4.5 years, actually. They couldn't get me out.
Me and him were actually both Navy, so I was wondering what your sea story is.
My
You got
what?
You got any sea stories, like while you were over there?
Well, it was interesting because I had quite a few experiences. In the courtroom, I was, well, one of my colleagues called me a wild man. And so I was defense lawyer for most of that time. Can everybody hear me okay if I need this?
once the doors close, I have to do it.
Okay. I got, the judges would threaten me with contempt and everything because I wouldn't stop talking and blah, blah. And but there's one phrase as a defense lawyer that protects you from that, and I told him my client is entitled, by the Constitution, my client is entitled to competent and representation. And I would be an incompetent counsel if I did not say what I have to say. And so, that if you're going to deprive my client of his counsel, cite me for contempt, you know? And then it was, okay, well, get on with it, you know? Get on with it, Beau Billingslea. And welcome. Sorry we started maybe a minute early. But I had a question about my experiences as Army JAG. Most of the time I spent in Germany. I ended my Army career in San Francisco at the Presidio. So I had wonderful experiences. I originally was on orders to go to Vietnam, so I refused to go. Martin Luther King at that time was saying that, you know, those little yellow people didn't do anything to us, you know. And maybe we should close that door. People in the back might have trouble hearing. So anyway, you probably don't know too much about the Vietnam era, but there was an assignment they called advisors in the villages. So my orders said I was supposed to be an advisor out in, I don't know where, in the Mekong Delta or someplace. And the lifespan of those advisors was about 30 days. And because they were basically out there alone with the villagers. And the Viet Cong, I don't know if you're aware, they had like cities underground in Vietnam. See, the Vietnamese had already beaten the French and kicked the French out of Vietnam. And so that was in the 30s. And so during that, it was the Sino-French War, they built these like 3 and 4 level tunnels. And so and they were already there, so when we started fighting them, they made use of those tunnels. And they were little tiny people, so those tunnels were like that. And they would be plugged, and so we couldn't even find them. So what they would do was they come up out of the hole, they set booby traps and you would disappear into the hole. So they came out of nowhere. And oddly enough, I wasn't too, because I didn't go to Vietnam, I wasn't too aware of those tunnels. I narrated a series on the History Channel called Suicide Missions. And they did subjects of dangerous professions. One of them was tunnel rats. We recruited the smallest Americans we could find to go down into those tunnels. Talking about a harrowing job, right? You go down into those tunnels, and sometimes they would have dogs that go down with them. And they had, so then when I was narrating the series, we had these diagrams of these multi-level villages literally under the ground. They had barracks, they had the mess hall, the cafeteria, they had operating rooms. I mean, it was like literally cities under the ground. And so that's one of the reasons we couldn't beat them, because they would pop up and disappear and we couldn't find them. And once we realized what was going on, that's when we recruited all the tiny Americans in the service that we could to go down into those tunnels. So, but anyway, getting back to my situation, I just couldn't get behind the Vietnam War, not just for my own personal safety, but it was a terrible war. We found out later, we lost 50,000 of my comrades for nothing, you know. So anyway, so I was at Fort Lee in Virginia, and they sent an assignment officer over to talk to me. So he said, well, we'll give us an extra year, and we'll send you to Germany. So I said, okay, good, fine, good deal, because I do not believe in that war. So I went to Germany, and I had the most remarkable experience you'd ever imagine in Germany. I had a helicopter ride around the Berlin Wall, which you might have heard about. I don't know, the Berlin Wall, before it came down. I was stationed in Frankfurt, but because of the reputation that I had developed, we had a staff sergeant who was in military intelligence in Berlin, went AWOL. He went to Sweden, and then after about a year, he turned himself in, because I asked him, why do you do that? He said, because I was a man without a country. You know, you imagine if you go someplace and you can't go home. You know, like Snowden, and I mean, he can't come home. So eventually he'll do something to get himself home, hopefully. I hate to see him, you know. But anyway, aside from that. So anyway, I was assigned, even though I wasn't even stationed in Berlin, I was assigned to represent him, flew to Berlin, and usually my clients were enemies of the command, you know. But this guy, even though he went AWOL, they just really liked him. So they treated me really, really well. You know, I had a car and driver and all, you know, all of that stuff. And so one of the colonels there said, "You want to take a chopper ride around the wall?" I said, "Well, yeah, yeah, I'll do that." You know, that's a pretty rare experience. So they gave me, and at that time, there's a prison there called Spandau Prison, and that's where some of the Nazi prisoners of war were held. But at that time, there was just one prisoner being held. That whole prison was open for one guy, and it was Albert Speer, who was Hitler's architect. You know. So anyway, that was a pretty spectacular experience to ride around the wall. And I also had a little incident with the KGB in Moscow. It was kind of funny, actually. You know, these things are funny after the fact. But my buddy, who we were a trial team, you know, he was a prosecutor, I was defense, and so we handled cases that way. But we were also good friends, so we traveled Europe together. You know, and my clients didn't know that, because they would think that I would, you know, my friendship with him had nothing to do with the courtroom, because we would battle it out in the courtroom. But then we go to lunch and say, "Hey, you know, how the kids?" You know. But so anyway, I'm going to meet him Monday. I haven't seen him, I don't know, 30 years or something. I'm gonna meet he and his wife Monday. I mean, and so, but anyway, so he got together a trip for us. It took us 6 months to get a clearance to go to Moscow, and you know, at that time it was a communist country, which meant there was no private industry. So like if you picture LA or picture Washington or any large city in the United States with no advertising, absolutely no advertising, all of the color is gone. Because all of the signs for businesses, it's colorful. Well, Moscow had no private industry. So it was like the drabbest, most depressing looking place you'd ever want to see. Of course, East Berlin was like that too. But so they had I guess there were government restaurants, and so they had like this neon sign. That was the only bluish neon sign, the only color you would see, except for the billboards on top of buildings. The Muscovites gathered together to help complete the current 5-year plan ahead of schedule. You know, it's a whole communist manifesto type of thing. So, but anyway, they had these signs, and it was PECT, because the Russian P is our R, the Russian C is our S. Like, when we were talking about the USSR years ago, that was CCCP in the Russian alphabet. So anyway, with that background, these signs said Pektopol, as we read them in English. And so we went with a tour, and I made it my business to learn a little Russian and to learn how to count in Russian, and so I became kind of like the resident interpreter for the tour, right? For the tour people, and but I had a little glitch. So the tour guide, I asked the tour guide, I keep saying every now and then I see this sign that says Pektopol. I said, what is that? Pektopol. And she just laughed and laughed and laughed, and when she regained her composure, she said, it's a restaurant. And then it dawned on me that, you know, Mr. Language, you know, Mr. Linguistic man, that I had failed to make that jump. So, but yeah, so if you can picture New York, picture LA, picture Washington with no private industry, meaning no signs, no color. And so it's like automatically depressing when you land there. And we flew from Switzerland, from Zurich. We drove down and spent the night in Zurich, and then we flew Aeroflot to Moscow. And they fed us on the plane, and when we finished eating, they said, take your tray and put it under the seat in front of you. So they had leftovers. If you didn't, you know, if you got hungry again, you can dig under food, under the chair in front of you. When we got there, customs went through our luggage and took stuff. They took a Stern magazine, which was a German magazine, kind of like Look magazine. They took, my wife had an Agatha Christie novel. They snatched that. And so, anyway, so like the first night we're walking around Red Square, and they had these guys who were in these, black leather jackets and black attaché cases. And they were supposed to be undercover, you know, like he said, oh, there's one, they're all over there. So this guy comes up to me and he asked me, "Are you a soldat?" I said, "Yeah." I said, you know, I'm an American soldier. He said, "Oh, okay." And so anyway, at that time, everything, you know, it was a communist country, so everything started on time. If you went to the movies and you were late, you couldn't get in. If you went to the ballet and you were late, you couldn't get in. And there's where my story continues. I took my wife and my daughter, went with us, and my wife had made this beautiful floor-length velvet, red velvet gown for her, and she looked so cute. So anyway, we went plenty early, and it was at the Bolshoi Ballet. And so our hotel was across the across the square. So anyway, so I'm there. Oh, by the way, I just have to tell you this. I had this beautiful hand tailor-made Edwardian navy blue suit through the PX. You know, you can get everything cheaper than PX. Cigarettes for 13 cents a pack. You know, you can buy a carton of cigarettes for $1.30. So anyway, so I had that in a deep navy suit, shocking white shirt and tie, and I was feeling good, you know. And we're in the lobby and we were talking, and I'm thinking, we're going to see Anna Karenina. You know, you couldn't get more Russian than that. Anna Karenina at the Bolshoi Ballet. So I'm just feeling really good, feeling very cosmopolitan, very international. And we start to walk up, and I present my tickets, and the woman says, "Niet, circus, circus." So I brought my circus tickets to the ballet. Okay, so now I got to run back to the hotel and get my ballet tickets. So, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to make it. So I had been a sprinter in college when I played football. I run, returns, punts, kickoffs, all that. I used all the speed I had running back, and I had to go down and up and go to the hotel. And then, you know, they had those old lifts. And I got there, And I had to go all the way around the square to get, anyway, got the tickets, came back, I'm sprinting, I'm all sweaty and feeling lousy now, and I get back here, lobby is completely empty, and everybody's in, and I bring the tickets up, and the woman says, "Niet," and she closed her eyes. Talking about closed body language, she crossed her arms, closed her eyes, and said, "Niet, niet." And I'm saying, "Oh, but I came thousands of miles, you know," and I lost all my dignity, I'm begging and stuff. So, luckily, my wife had been talking with one of the employees there, and she fell in love with my little daughter. And so she came over and made the case to this woman to let us in. Okay, so we go in, and they take us to our box, and we're sitting there, and I'm all sweaty, feeling nasty. And so anyway, we're enjoying the ballet. The first intermission, lights come up, and I have my legs crossed, and out of my peripheral vision, I see a shock of white in my crotch. I look down, all that running it did, my fly was open. So I was thinking, that's why people were looking at me so funny. You know, it wasn't just like this black man in a suit sprinting like he was running for his life. My fly was also open. Yeah, my experience. I mean, my experience in the service in Europe was very special, and I probably went on too long, but I had a great time. It's actually, I extended a number of times, so I was there too long. I was there from 1970, but I was there from September 1970 to December 1974. But I was having a great time, you know. I felt kind of guilty because I had, you know, I lost buddies in Nam and guys, and their legs messed up, you know, all of that stuff, and I had a bit of guilt about that, but you know, I had to do what I needed to do for my own mental health because I couldn't participate in that war. I had an interesting case where I represented a pilot who went to he went to an air show. It was actually a civilian air show, and he wanted to show the capability of this helicopter we had called a Cobra. And an attack helicopter, and it's one of these, what it does, its main deal was, it would, like if my hand was a target, it'd fire at the target, go like that, and come up, and then do a return to target and come back and hit it again. Well, they wanted to demonstrate that move, and they used the German Mercedes as a target. And unfortunately, when they came back to return the target, they couldn't pull out. And so, yeah, they just crushed it, killed 4 people. And the irony of that is, you're recording this, right? So I gotta, is that they were not authorized to take that helicopter. So they were wrong on many different, many different levels there, which is, it was a terrible situation. But that was an interesting case. My client, he was a co-pilot. He lost his memory for a week, but then it came back to him. What happened was the craft kind of like fell apart, and then the cockpit bounced off the Mercedes and then went about 100 yards, almost like a football, like that, and then skidded and crashed. So he, I guess luckily for him, his mind blanked it out. So he didn't remember the details. But yeah, as I said, I had a lot of different. Yeah, I had a wrongful urination. You got to have your wrongful urination cases. Where the guys had maybe a few drinks and then they were urinating out of the windows of the barracks. And of course, me being my boss's favorite, I got that case. Meaning I was not the favorite, obviously. But I've had a number of, I had a mishap in London where my sister, we drove over, my parents came over and we drove to London, or took the ferry over, and we were at Dover, we spent the night in Dover, and then we were going to have breakfast at the hotel, and we were staying at a cottage, and we had to go to the main hotel to eat breakfast, so, and it's the wrong side drive, right? So don't tell any Brits I said that. And my sister was in the back seat, and so the front door, my father was up in the front, with me, and there was you had to dislodge the front door because the car was not a great car, obviously. And so he was getting it ready to open. My sister thought he was open, so she opened the door and knocked an individual off of his bicycle. And that individual happened to be a constable. So he's doing this big old drama. Oh, my elbow. And then this truck driver comes over and decides to give me a lecture. But, you know, it's funny, if you've been overseas, there's this, everybody overseas has this mixed feelings about Americans. You know, they love us, but they love us and they hate us. They love us, but they're jealous of us, and you know, it's a complicated thing. Right? So anyway, so he was going to give me a lecture, and I wasn't in the mood for a lecture. So my mother knew. You know, I had a switch. We all have a switch, and back in those days, my switch was very easy to hit. So she grabbed me and said, "Beau, come here. Don't talk to him." And she told me, she said, "You need to leave, because this isn't going to end good for you." She said, "You need to leave." So anyway, this guy, there were constables and there were bobbies. The bobbies are like the cops, right? So he says, "Oh, I'm going to call the bobbies. And he did, and he came, and he was so cool. Because, you know, the British really respect their military. They really respect their military. And so he saw my driver's license, you know, my military, and I had to, you know, we all had green plates, all American military had green plates. And so he says, "You're captain." I says, "Yes." He told the constable, he says, "I think this is all going to be fine." I said, and he said, "But he says, it's all going to be fine." And so, you know, the situation diffused itself, and you know, everything was fine. One last thing on this, and I'll entertain more questions. My first duty assignment was in the most glorious place. It was a 12-story office building, and I worked for the United States Procurement Agency. And we did contracts for like repairing the billets and that kind of thing. And I was a contracting officer, so I was writing contracts. And in this building, the unit was like 350 people. Only 15 were military. The rest were civilian people. And I had guys working for me. I had 2 ex-Nazi soldiers. And we had a lot of third country nationals. So we had a lot of people who were traveling the world. A lot of women who were traveling the world from Australia, England, Ethiopia, Italy, Canada. And what they would do is they'd come and work there for a while and then leave. During, you know, to fund their travels and then leave. And so it was such a wonderful place to work because it had such an international flair to it that you could talk to people from Australia. I mean, you go down for lunch because they had a cafeteria downstairs on the bottom floor, which was street level. You know, it's all glass so we could see. And you know, you can sit there and have a conversation with somebody from Australia, somebody from Italy, somebody from Canada. And that was my first duty assignment too. I was thinking, I like this place. You know, this is going to be a nice duty station as opposed to being out in the village. Yes.
Could you tell us how you got started, like the first stuff in voiceover, and kind of what it's like with dealing with agents and what a typical week is like doing voiceover?
Yeah, I started voiceover doing live action. In the 80s when they were going to dub a foreign film, and I would be called when they wanted a general African accent, you know, and because my accents weren't very sophisticated in those days, you know, it's kind of like saying doing a Southern accent in the United States. There's so many different Southern accents. So, but anyway, that's how I started, and my friend who got me involved in that, he got into anime, and yeah, it was anime. Yeah, he got into anime, and then he pulled me in. I think it was Seventh Heaven. What was it? Yeah, and that was, I guess, I don't know, middle, early '90s. And I didn't necessarily think of it as a career. It was just fun to do, and who knew that anime would become such a force in our culture now? You know. It's a pretty terrific thing. And You know, I go, because the way electronics are now, we can audition at home. You don't have to go in, but I like to go into my agency and audition. But I, you know, depending on how large your part is, I'll audition from home and then just MP3 it, send it in. I go on, you know, a lot of auditions, more auditions for voiceover than on camera. But and I've been very fortunate that, you know, I work pretty steadily. Doing video games, there's Mafia 3 coming that I did last week, and Wildstar, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's coming. More of that is coming. The business is changed overall. The business has changed so much from when I started. Is I tell the young actors that years ago I used to have to drive to the studio to pick up sides for my audition. And they said, well, no wait, what? You had to go pick up a piece of paper. I said, yeah, that's the way it was. We had to, we have to make a determination. If it was large, if the role was large enough, you go down and pick it up, and you get a call today for an audition tomorrow. If it was large enough, you would drive down and pick it up. But if it wasn't, you'd say, I'm not going to waste my time that way, I'll go early and go prepare in the hallway. But I'm sure you're aware, it's nice to have something, to sleep on something. Sleep on decisions, you know, you sleep on your preparation for a part, just let it sink into you. And a lot of inventors, I get quite a few ideas in my sleep. And, but yeah, so now, and the same thing with law school. You know, when I was in law school, I had to drive to the library, and go in and get the ladder and climb the stacks, and reach for the book, and there's an empty space where the book is. Then I'd have to go down and wander around the library, and find the book, and say, can I have that when you're finished? Yeah. So when my son went through law school, his research was with a mouse. I said, wow. Can you imagine driving to the library to read a book? All the time that you save just by being able to do it with a mouse. I mean, it's just like, wow. I would have learned a lot more if I had that mouse, you know, because I have to be honest with you, there were times where, do I drive to the library or do I watch a TV show? You know, what do I do? So, yeah, the business is a very wonderful place to spend your adult life, you know, your professional life, if you can get enough work. And Hollywood, and now it's all over. You know, breaks a lot of people's hearts, which is very sad. But I have some friends and relatives who would say, well, can you get me into the business? And I say, you really don't want to do this. If you have it in your blood, you know, if this is something that just drives you and you have a need to do it, I would say go for it, you know, and follow your dream. But, you know, if you want to be a movie star, or if you want to just, you know, say, I think that might be nice. Because I remember years ago when we were going to college, and people didn't know what they were going to do, they decided, I think I'll teach. I don't know if that still goes on now, but that's what they used to say. I don't know what I'll do. I guess I'll teach, like the default profession. But as I say, I'm very fortunate. You know, you got to be good. You got to be lucky. You got to be in the right place, right time. Just all of those things together. Because I know a lot of wonderful actors in Hollywood who can't make a living. I mean, terrific actors, and you see them in plays. You know, we've all done free plays because you just love what you do. And so, you know, sometimes you can go to the theater and see astounding work, and you go backstage and talk to the person, and they say, well, you know, I'm working at Starbucks. But you have to be known. Now it's easier to be known because of YouTube. You know, you can kind of like send your stuff out there and let people see how good you are on YouTube. But when I first started, I was lucky to get 3 auditions a year. You know, you're doing cold, sending out your pictures, just cold pictures, sending them out all over town, and not getting any responses, and looking in Dramalog, and trying to find, working for free at the little theaters, and really, really sacrificing, and especially like Steve Bloom was saying, if you have a family, that's a real tough one. If it's just you, heck, you can sleep in your car and you're fine, say it's only going to last for a short period. I can do this, but if you have a family depending on you, children depending on you, that makes it just a real tough nut to crack to try to pursue your dream and at the same time provide for your family. So, as I say, I was just immensely lucky to have had the opportunities that I've had to make a living as an actor doing what I love. It's such a blessing to do what you love. As I say, I've done it for free. I've done a lot of stuff for free. Used to go to the clubs and sing, and David, he's not really a casting director, but I'll call him casting director. He would get the singers and go to a club and say, okay, they want to showcase their work, and so we would give free entertainment. It was free for the club, and so they would have entertainment. We would get paid. So much of what we did was just gratis, because we, just trying to get yourself known in Hollywood. But once again, it's, the difference between Hollywood and New York, at least back when I started, is New York, you can kind of pedal yourself. You can go down and submit yourself and knock on doors and stuff. But in Hollywood, you got it. You have to have an agent. I have an agent. I have a manager. I have several agents. I have a voiceover commercial agent, and I have a theatrical agent, and I have a manager, and on and off I have a publicist. And once again, now, because the secrecy is so severe in Hollywood, that everything is using a code name. When I did Star Trek, I drive the MGM, well, it's Sony now. I drive the Sony, and we had a code, and so ST was never used. The words were never used, and we were using 3 different sound stages, which were away from our dressing rooms and makeup, and so we would get made up and get in costume, and they gave us these capes from head to toe with hoods, so that when we're out on the studio lot, nobody could see our costumes. And the way one of the sound stages we were using, it was like a combined sound stage, and there were bathrooms that both sound stages used. So to go to the bathroom, you had to go out to go to the bathroom and go in, like that. So whenever you had to go, you had to get a cape and do this whole thing, It's like, and sometimes you just, so you're crossing my legs, trying to bend it off. But the experience now is so different and so secretive. I think I mentioned that we have to sign the non-disclosure agreements very often just to audition. But they use code names anyway. So if I was going to tell somebody I just auditioned for Whiskey, which was a code name for a show I just did, nobody would know what it was anyway. But it's like that double fail-safe thing to keep their project safe, so nobody will steal their ideas or steal their concept. But it's I've tried to hold on to my excitement about Hollywood. When you first go to some places, it's like Hollywood. Looking at the Hollywood sign, and of course, like whenever you live in a place, the only way you sightsee is when somebody comes to visit, right? So my cousin came last year. My cousin came from Colorado, went to Universal Studios, took the Hollywood sign, and Beverly Hills, and all the Rodeo Drive, and down Santa Monica to the beach, and all of that. And I was telling my wife, and I got one of those maps to the stars' houses, which is, I don't know if I was a snob or what. I said, Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to map to the stars' house, and then I got into it. But it was like the older stars for me, you know, like what Abbott and Lou Costello lived there, and Edward G. Robinson lived in that house. And there's this one place in Lexington where Lucille Ball, you know Lucille Ball, right? Because of Lucy, right? But Lucille Ball lived there. Jack Benny lived next to her, and across the street, right next to her, was Jimmy Stewart. And a block down was Mel Ferrer and his wife. But so anyway, I got into looking at the houses with all of these ancient stars. You probably don't even know what I'm talking about when I say Jack Benny. but you know, they do the same thing for the more recent stars. But back in those days, the stars just lived in houses. You can drive by and see the house. But now, everybody lives behind gates. So that, you know, you go by like the Playboy Mansion. You know, you drive at Homely Hills and you drive up there and the mansion's there, but you can't see anything because it's all down the long drive and there are trees and everything. But years ago, with the Hollywood stars, they were just like available. I mean, their homes were available, so you can go and look and see where Edward G. Robinson lived, or where Jimmy Stewart and all those people lived. Anyway, that's kind of share my Hollywood experience, my emotions of still being excited about what I'm doing, where I'm living, walking the same steps, you know, or looking at Marilyn Monroe's handprints and footprints at Grauman's Chinese Theater. It's still exciting to me. I try to hold on to that.
Do you have to pay your agents and things like that? Do you only pay them every month, or do you pay them when they find you work, or do you just have to automatically? Are they all on staff?
No, they get a cut of the tape when I work. No, they're not on retainer where I pay them every week for their work. So they do a lot of work for no pay. You know, because no matter how successful you are, you still have a great, a lot of rejection where you don't get the gig. And because of the way Hollywood is now, that your people, your agent, my agents work hard to get auditions for me, especially my theatrical agent, to get an audition for a movie or whatever. So they do a lot of work without getting paid for. But I have terrific representation. My agents and my manager, they're all good people, which is important to me. The dollar is not the bottom line for me. And I think probably for most people, you need to get along with people, and the people who represent me need to be courteous and polite, and there are people in this legitimate have a different point of view. They want an attack dog, but it's not comfortable for an actor to go in and then have a casting director say, "Boy, you're Asian. You got to tell them to back off." But it's a little uncomfortable. But I'm in a great place where I have wonderful representation and things are coasting along nicely.
Yes, Mr. Billingslea. Is there any way, as you just explained, as things have changed in the entertainment industry, in regards to your voice work,
Yeah.
and particularly to one role that I really enjoyed from you as OG from Legend of Black Heaven, what was it like during that course of time as things were changing in the business?
Well, Legend of Black Heaven, I think that was my first one.
Was that your first one?
I think that was my first one. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, OG, he saves the world with music. I mean, it's really terrific. But I'm trying to think. I was very green at that time, but I remember I was really excited about doing that. It was really fun. It was white bread. I mean, it wasn't edgy at all. Just these guys doing their music and because their music was saving the universe. And also OG was, you probably remember, he wasn't a deep voice guy. He was just like, you know, so I was just talking like that. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank you for bringing that up. That takes me back to the beginning of a journey that has been absolutely phenomenal. And meeting and spending time with people like, like Steve and Melissa and Mary Elizabeth and Wendy. We don't see each other as much as we'd like to. Everybody's busy doing their own thing, you know. But so that's one of the reasons why this is so special for us. I think this is only the second time that we've been to a convention, all of us at the same time. So this is very special, and you guys are making it wonderful for us.
I guess if anything, we ask a follow-up of all of your peers within the business, who has surprised you the most out of all of them? Like, who's the one, I mean, obviously there's the elephant in the room, but anyone that really stood out that surprised you during the course of just this road of acting, of voice acting?
That's quite a question. That's a hard one. I have to ruminate on that. Not too long ago, I did a session as an orc. Are you guys familiar with the orcs? The World of Warcraft?
Yes.
Yeah, there was one actor, I won't use his name, but he has this mild voice like that, and he's a singer. And at this session, they are all deep voice guys, and some of them guys make me sound like a tenor, you know. And he was there, he was talking, and I had just met him, and I was just wondering, is he gonna cut it? And then when he did it, it was the most astonishing thing. It was like a completely different human being. He was down in his bowels. I gotta tell you, I was like, wow, man. I had to tell him, I said, you're impressive. You're impressive. Because he said, you sound like you sing as a tenor. He said, yeah, actually I did. I said, how do you get down there? He said, I just been working at it. Bringing it down, just doing that. So because the voice is basically muscles and tendons. And so within reason, you can bring your voice down and bring your voice up. And that's why the operatic tenors, you can see those guys, they work years to bring their voice, to bring their voices up, all their voices up. And some of them, like Pavarotti, when he was singing, you could see all that effort. You see all that effort, but there are some of them who sing those very high notes, but seemingly little effort at all. You don't see any tension in here. But no, that's another mystery. I remember I revoiced a character in a movie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the penitentiary movies. They're kind of a cult movie. They takes place in a penitentiary. When I was at General Hospital, one of the actors there, he played Luke and Laura. You guys probably don't remember that anyway. But Tony Geary was his name, and so he decided to leave General Hospital and pursue, feature film career. And so he was doing this movie, Penitentiary, and there were three of them. And in the third one, they had a little person, a Jamaican little person, who was in the penitentiary. And he was like Superman. He could fly. It was really fun. It was a fun thing. But so they wanted me to revoice him because his voice was too high. They felt it was too high. So they wanted him to have a deep voice. And it was really funny. But the interesting experience was that I voiced him, 8 hours a day for 4 days. And he wanted me to go as deep as I could in my register, and sound natural. And after 3.5 days, he said, "No, I want him high like a monkey." I said, and by that time I was like,
I don't think I can do I like a monkey.
and actually it became an issue. And I told him, I said, okay, well, I've been down in my bowels for, for 4 days here, and if you want me to do a high voice, I can do it. I can do a high voice, but not after I've been down, low for 4 days. And he didn't understand the instrument. He just didn't understand the instrument. And he said, so what's the big deal? I said, I can't explain it to you. I can't explain it to you, but the voice is muscles. It's muscles, and your vocal bands vibrate. And the muscles pull and stretch and all of this stuff. And he said, but you give me a week to recover from all of this, and then I can give you a high monkey. I said, but you're going to have to get somebody else. And I had just pretty much finished the role. And then he just got that revelation. I said, I wish you had had that revelation like 4 days ago, and I could have given it to you. But I don't know how I got on penitentiary. I'm just plugging my work. So. But it's fun, if you want just watch some silly, watch the penitentiary movies. They're silly and fun. And I like silly and fun.
Is that what you prefer when you do voice work? Do you prefer silly and fun? Or?
Yeah, I do. But I mean, a lot of our work. I mean, it's tongue in cheek, like Barrett or. But the video games are, they've gotten serious, and all the violence and all of that. So. But like when I go to the movies, if I had my choice, I'd watch something silly and fun, because like all of us, I guess we're affected by what we watch. And if you watch a dark, a dark, hideous movie, it's a totally different experience. And then I don't know about you, but I kind of carry it with me. And and there are some movies that you just have to see them, even if they're bad. You have to see them because they're part of the culture. But yeah, if I had my choice, I like to laugh. I prefer to laugh rather than to brood about stuff, especially in my time of life too. And as I mentioned, my grandson was born Tuesday, and it's just like I want no conflict in my life. As I said, that's one of the reasons I left the law, because if you're practicing law, it's just like constant, this and that. So I know he's lying. Okay, yeah, you'll get back to me. Yeah, right. And working 90 hours a week and in the library after a case, I would be in the library at 3 o'clock in the morning. And in the military, they would schedule their cases out, and so sometimes they schedule a day for a case, and it would take more than a day, but because of the scheduling, they wouldn't have the courtroom available for another 2 months. So they say, okay, we're finishing this case, so we're in trial at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I mean we're human, so I'm not as sharp. I'm not as sharp after I've been working all day and when you're concentrating, that's fatiguing. When you're really that's fatiguing, and especially when you have so much on the line, somebody's freedom is on the line, and so it was one of those situations where, and then I would have a different case the next day, and if my research wasn't finished, I had to go to the library, and there I am, at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to be in court at 9 the next morning. On this case, and as I say, it's not just busy work, because even though my trial partner and we got along well, we still, once we were in that courtroom, it was a matter of pride. As anything else, I want to do the best job I can for my client, and friendship doesn't enter into it at all. and he would pull some fast ones on me. And so, then I pull some fast ones on him too. I get back at him. But because I ended up, as I said, when I first started, I was defense counsel. And then when I got really sharp and really good, they made me prosecute. So there's a different mentality when you're representing a human being versus representing the government, United States versus somebody. And that was one of the things that I mean, you're working as a prosecutor, I'm working for personal and professional pride and doing the best job I can. But as a defense lawyer, I'm doing the best I can for a human being. And it doesn't matter whether he's guilty or innocent, which is a legal determination anyway, because sometimes there's a fine line. I had a friend of mine who was castigating me because you represented guilty people, didn't you? I said, well, you know, sometimes that's not always cut and dry. That's why you have juries or hung juries, and people have different sort of opinion. I said, but even if he's a guilty person, he has a right to a fair trial. He has a right to the prosecution proving the case against him. And there's no, because he was accusing me of having a lack of integrity, you know, and I said, no, it's not at all. It's about our judicial system affords everyone a right to competent counsel, and that's my job to do the best I can. As I said, if you came to me and you want me to represent you, you want me to do that too, right? Even if you feel in your mind that you're guilty. He said, well, yeah. I said, okay, that's what we're talking about. Because sometimes people get down on some of the attorneys who represent the some of the terrorists, and I mean, I understand. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I understand the guys who do it, and to say, well, they're hideous people in your mind, but they are also entitled to a fair trial, and I think that's an element of civilized society. That's the way we proceed, because they have a saying in the law: you'd rather that 10 guilty guys go free rather than convict one innocent man. And I feel it's a very profound case, and because of DNA, we've had a lot of these cases now where people have been in jail for 15, 20 years, and then the DNA proves them innocent.
Well, unfortunately, with the full Guantanamo incident about a year ago, when it was revealed that 30% of the prisoners were innocent, Dick Cheney came out and said the opposite of that. He said he would rather have 10 men in jail as long as one of them was guilty.
Well, you know, I guess he's entitled to his opinion, but think about that. You know, people's lives, I mean, these guys who literally spent 20 years in prison for a crime they did not commit. I mean, wow.
So, sorry, I have a question that's somewhat more serious, but I'm kind of curious now. Is there like any sort of like process, like there's like, I'm in jail for 15, 20 years for a crime I didn't commit, then I'm acquitted. Like, how is the government deal with that?
How do what?
How is the government even deal with a case like that?
Well, they just... We have 7 minutes? Okay. The government, you know, they have a couple of organizations that look into that. The Innocence Project. Sheck, who was one of the defense lawyers for O.J. Simpson, he started a program so that they go and investigate these cases where to find out, because a lot of guys in prison saying I'm innocent too, you know, when they're not. But if there's a way to prove it, and we find out that he had incompetent counsel. There was a case in Texas where his lawyer was falling asleep in court. I mean, so he obviously didn't have competent counsel. But if the evidence comes up, you know, with DNA, these guys are being released. I mean, that's all we can do, and I think they can give them reparations. Hopefully they would. I don't know if that happens to go through, it varies from state to state. But, you know, if you took 20 years of a guy's life, and that's happened to a lot of African Americans in the South, where there was rush to judgment, and these guys are found guilty, and then witnesses recount, well, I really lied, you know, 20 years ago or something, and I don't know which states, you know, give them, you know, pay them for the time, it's the 20 years that they lost, but I feel that something should happen. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I just can't imagine spending 20 years, and so many of these guys, they come out saying, I don't have any bitterness. I don't know how that happens. And I'm thinking, you gotta be just talking. But, you know, but I think that also for their own mental health, you know, they say, well, I'm not gonna hold a grudge, that's what it is. But that's the way the government handles it. If you come up with enough evidence, and usually it's DNA. I mean, sometimes it's a witness who recants and said, well, actually I lied, but it's usually DNA. And because there have been cases where witnesses recant and the government does nothing. The prosecutor doesn't do anything. He says, he's guilty anyway. So, but the DNA is a wonderful tool to help purge our prisons of guys who didn't commit those crimes. Yes?
Do you have any, well, you were in Bebop and Naruto. Can I just ask what two things you like about those characters? Or like what thing you like about those two characters, like the Raikage and Jet?
Jet?
Yeah.
Well, Jet is like me, you know, the Faye and Spike are like my kids.
Yeah.
You know, you remember that episode where Faye stole all the Oolongs and then called for help?
Yeah.
And Jet, you gotta get me out of there. You know, not that my daughter was like that, but and I have good kids. But yeah, Jet is kind of a family figure, a father figure to them, and you know, and he really needs them, but he pretends that he doesn't. You know, he's like when they all off doing their thing, and it's just me and Ein, and I'm talking to Ein, saying, I don't need them. Why do I need them? And then I hear a noise. Spike, is that you? You back? Now Raikage is he's an interesting character. He's all blustery, you know. He's all blustery, and I don't think he has the vulnerability that Jet has. You know, Jet, because of the way the show is set, Jet can show his vulnerability and his dependence on Faye and you know the whole gang. There's people being their head, and even Ein, because Ein lends a tender ear sometimes to Jet. But Raikage, you know, he's blustery and he's has to figure out what to do with his ne'er-do-well brother B. You know, who's always I would love to do B. I don't know if you know the show, but you know, hey, what's up? It's cool. It's cool. You know,
What's cool? That's cool, B.
you know, so, yeah, they're different characters, and I really love doing both of them. And the nice thing about Raikage, fourth Raikage, is that, you know, he's still alive, he's still cooking.
Yeah.
You know, I love the fact that Naruto is still going.
Yeah.
I wish Watanabe would bring Cowboy Bebop back, and boy, would we love that. Because you know, we did a game, we voiced a game, but it never aired. I don't know why. We never got any explanations or anything, but we actually voiced the Cowboy Bebop game. So, but you know, another lifetime.
Everybody, I think that deserves the next thing, so let's give
Thanks for listening. And thank you for your service, sir.